there is a move by women from all over the state to have sculptures commemorating the strength of women in a prominent place in town. The one in Knoxville is already there. There's stone sculptures. It's called the Women's History Project. And let me tell you how it came about. It started out way back with a group of women who believed she was correct and believed that women were the strength of the home. And because they were the strength of the home and the family and responsible for feeding and clothing and all of that, were having a really rough time, and it had to do with the drink. Men were going out and drinking away all their money and doing all the bad carousing around, and not so much womanizing as they were partying and playing poker and carousing and using up their own strength and the family money, and it left the women to tend to the needs of the family. Women have always been the nurturers. And as I speak, please look at the parallels here, because this is powerful. And they had enough of this and decided to band together, stand up, and it was the beginning of the Women's Temperance League. And so what happened is that there were a number of women across the state who began fighting. The fight went on for a very long time, 70 years. Went on to say that we can't make a difference unless we have a seat at the table. Do you know that still today we're looking for a seat at the table? Do you know that in the Tennessee House, do you have any idea how many of the senators and the Congress people, legislators, are women?
I just know there's two here.
Yeah. Very, very few. They're down to about 15. I'm very lucky that I work with a number of them on the Tennessee Economic Council on Women. And so I find myself going back and forth today and dealing with some of the same issues. I have the privilege of chairing the economic impact for the council, and as such I've had the privilege of authoring a number of studies that we have done for the legislature. And we're still writing about the economic impact of domestic violence, the economic impact of insufficient health care for women, the economic impact of women-owned businesses or the lack thereof, the economic impact on wage inequity. Women still make 74 cents of every dollar men make. I mean, you know, and I could go on and on and on. But these problems that we have today are not Republican or Democrat. They're gender blind, they're human problems. And guess throughout history who has been the backbone of solving human problems? The true author of the New Deal was Frances Perkins, a social worker who was in the Roosevelt administration. Or you could talk about Sojourner Truth, or you could talk about Carrie Nation, or I don't care what the bias is, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's that it's been women who have made the difference.
For me, the biggest human rights issue in the world is women's rights. The biggest issue in the world. We're talking about this country, this town, this state, but it's something that we're fighting against a world issue, really, that would change. I mean, if women's rights in the Middle Eastern countries change, I mean, so many places, it changes the world for the better. In this country, I mean, a lot hasn't changed, a lot has changed though, and we're still making progress, and we need to find ways to inspire more people to do that.
I have a daughter, and she's strong, smart, and bold, but it took a lot of work, and it's worse now than it was. She's 16 now. It's a lot worse. It's not worse now than it was when she was growing up. But it took an enormous amount of work to like tell her, no, that's not an appropriate, article of clothing for you to wear. No, you can't listen to this kind of music, because they get a lot of pressure from their peers and they just want to fit in. It's very hard. And then they see adult women dressing in ways that are just shocking. One of the members of our board is a professor at the university, and she said, I cannot believe some of the clothing the girls go to school in. I mean, you bend down and everything's hanging out. So it's about self-respect. And when we do at Girls Inc. is teach that to girls. And Marsha doing that right now in our design camp, helping them have the inner self-esteem and strength so that they see themselves as wonderful as they are, and understand that they don't have to sell themselves in ways that are inappropriate.
Well, and that gets back to that talk we had before about the sound of silence. When we see that stuff going on, why do we stay silent about it? Why do we stay silent about it? I'm looking at the Victoria's Secret stuff. Why are we so obsessed with that?
I want to do a counterpoint on that.
Good.
I mean, look, you're making you say we accept what comes out of the media. Well, that's exactly what you've done. Let's look at up here. She's young, she's beautiful, she's half naked, and no one said she's weak, okay? No one said she should be ashamed. Then we come over here, we say, oh my goodness, I could see her leg up to here and there was no self-respect. I mean, do you see any? I mean, it's your embodiment that is not, that you can't have self-respect. And it's a great contradiction with all the things that were said earlier.
Great. You fell for it. I think that's wonderful. And thank you for coming in with the opposite opinion. So what about this? Yeah, man.
Well, when I look at this, at her face, what I see is complacent suffering. I don't particularly think she's strong. It's just that's how life goes. You have to remember this was made. I mean, this is a stereotype of response. It was a romantic sculpture, and this is how women were portrayed. Silent suffering, the whole shot. I mean, maybe this look is what actually triggered the suffragettes. We're sick and tired of being portrayed like this.
That's right.
That's an interesting point.
I see it completely opposite. I see virtuous purity in her look. I don't see.
No.
That's virtuous purity.
If this was made today, she would look aggressive. Her face would be different.
She's looking
She'd be down
to
here.
God, and I see virtuous purity.
So let's
That's very different. I don't think I'm wrong.
But then this is a stereotype. And back then, they were selling morals. Now they're selling stuff. So we've gone way beyond that.